So right now, if you came closer, you would smell dish soap because that's what the kind of soap I use. But laundry detergent is very similar to just all types of soap. But great question.
She's thinking like a scientist. It's like we do it one way and then we change it to see if it affects it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Does the actual bubble part, not the gas part, but the bubble part, does it still count as liquid?
Wow, that's a good question.
That's a great question. So there is a little bit of liquid, very, very tiny amount of liquid on the outside. That's the kind of container for the gas. So that's making the bubbles. So like if you think about blowing bubbles in the park, you would have like a thin film of water surrounding the air you breathe out. So that's great. So
that really gets into something that's at the heart of science is we classify things, solid, liquid, gas, and we give them names. And then we always find things that are kind of on the boundary because, yeah, that is theoretically a liquid, but it sure doesn't act like a liquid because it stays in the same place and doesn't flow. So anytime you come up with a name or classification, there's always an exception to it. And that's what scientists love to look at. That's what we go, wow, what's going on there? Yeah, we do that.
In the back, the girl with the striped shirt.
I've done, in my old school, we had a science lab and we did this project.
Yeah? Awesome.
That's really cool. Let's stick with questions.
Okay.
Why was it hot? Because it looked like it was steaming.
Yeah, so we gave off some heat, and so yeah, we had this steam happening here, so I could have warmed up my hands if I wanted to, but we're going to not get my hands messier than they need to.
And one of the reasons she's wearing gloves is the hydrogen peroxide we used is 10 times more concentrated than the stuff you have in your medicine cabinet.
So yeah, it's a bit more dangerous.
And, oh, can I mention?
Yeah.
It's like we said that one of the ways you know if a chemical reaction happens is you make a new substance and you see new properties. But another way is there's frequently a change in energy. It frequently gives off energy like that balloon or like this. And sometimes it'll even soak up energy.
Yeah.
It's right.
Yeah, so the bubbles are slowly popping and they're releasing the gas into the air as it's shrinking down. Yeah, you can smell the soap now. Okay.
Are you able to touch it?
I could touch it, yeah. It's soap bubbles. You would want to wear gloves to touch it because it still has some hydrogen peroxide as well as some of the potassium iodine. You wouldn't want to get that on your hands. Yeah, it would itch and that's not good. Yeah.
Is it warm enough to roast marshmallows?
Not warm enough to roast marshmallows.
I
Sorry.
think we're about ready to roll on here.
I think
I think you have one more question. Why don't you take one more question?
I remember you doing this in kindergarten.
That's great. That's not a question. But thank you. I'm glad you remember. Okay, so give it up for Lonnie. Now, are you guys ready to try and see if we're going to do a chemical reaction? Because I have a question for you. Well, first of all, are you ready?
Yeah!
Okay. I want to answer a question because one of the things that scientists do when we do an experiment is we start with a question. And then we try to have an experiment that answers the question. Now, my question is going to be, I'm going to start with 3 substances that are in your house right now. And I'm going to ask you the question, did a reaction happen? Remember, we know there's a reaction if you got new stuff. And how do you know if you have new stuff? It has different, what's the word that started with P?
Properties.
Different properties. Good.